Quick review on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said on Yud Bet Amud Aleph that if you have a tree and part of the tree is in Ir Miklat and the other half is outside Ir Miklat, you always follow where the branches are. That's what the Mishnah said. Then the Gemara brought a contradiction that we find by Maser Sheni that you actually don't go based on where the branches are. You always follow where it's supposed to be. Like if the tree, half of it is in, half of it is out, then you go half in, half is out. So Gemara said that you can't raise a contradiction from Maser Sheni to the case of our Miklat, because by Maser Sheni, because there's a difference between the two. By our Miklat, you follow Bedira Hashem. Hashem depended on where you live. So therefore, by branches, where people usually live, so therefore you always follow the north of the branches. Whereas by the case of Maser Sheni, Torah says it depends on the choma, where the wall is. So therefore you go where the wall is. That's the difference between the two. And that the Gemara raised another contradiction from Maser to Maser, which we're going to start from reading inside from there. 2 lines from the bottom on bottom of Yud Bet Amud Aleph. The Gemara says Rami Maser Amaser. Okay, so I'll ask you a contradiction from the case of Maser Sheni to the case of Maser Sheni. The Tanya, B'Yerushalayim halach achar hanof. In Yerushalayim, you follow the branches of the tree. That's referring to Maser Sheni. Be'arei Miklat halach achar hanof. And by Arei Miklat also, you follow where the branches are. So you see that this Braita says clearly, it's actually a Mishnah, this Mishnah says clearly that by both Arei Miklat and by Maser Sheni, you always follow the branches. The branches is where the main thing is. Wherever the branches are, that's where we follow. So that's a problem, because we just said that previously by Maser Sheni, you don't follow the branches. You follow whether you're inside or outside, that's where you go. So Amar Rav Kahana Lukasha. That's not a problem. Ha Rav Yehuda, Ha Rabbanan. It's actually a machloka between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim. The Tanya, as we learn a Braita, top of Yud Bet Amud Bet, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, Beme'ara halach achar pitcha. Now, this Rabbi Yehuda is talking about Maser Sheni. Rabbi Yehuda says, let's say you have, you want to eat your Maser Sheni, which you can only eat in Yerushalayim. And you're in a cave. The cave itself, for example, let's say it's located inside Yerushalayim, but the opening to the cave is outside of Yerushalayim, which means opens up to the outside. Or vice versa, the other way around. So he says, but B'ma'ara, when it comes to a cave, halach achar pitcha, you always follow the opening. Wherever the opening is, that's where it is. If it opens into Yerushalayim, even though the actual cave is outside of Yerushalayim, the cave is considered to be inside Yerushalayim. And if the opening is to the outside, even though the actual cave is inside Yerushalayim, it's as if it's outside Yerushalayim, and therefore it has those halachot. Now there's different halachot, but whether it's inside or outside, we'll get to it soon. And then he says also, Rabbi Yehuda, Be'ilan, when it comes to a tree, halach achar nofo. You follow where the branches are. So we're seeing that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that we always follow where the branches are. So if you have a tree, the trunk of it is inside, and the branches are outside, as far as Maser Sheni goes, it's as if the entire tree is outside of Yerushalayim. And vice versa, if the trunk is inside, the trunk is outside and the branches are inside, even though you're on the trunk, which is physically outside, it's as if you are inside Yerushalayim. As far as Maser Sheni, the one wants to say the same thing when it comes to, same halacha applies when it comes to Arei Miklat, which would mean that if the person, the killer, who is trying to seek refuge in Arei Miklat, he goes and he stands on a tree trunk, which is inside Arei Miklat, but the branches are actually on the outside, then the Goel Hadam, the one who's chasing him to kill him, is allowed to kill him. Right? Or vice versa, the other way around. That's what it comes out. So that's how we answer in the country. Where Chachamim hold, that's Rabbi Yehuda, Chachamim hold, we don't follow the branches or the trunk. We follow exactly where you are. If you are inside, I don't care if you're on the branch or you're on the trunk, you're inside. If you are outside physically, your body's outside of the city line, whether it's Yerushalayim or Miklat, whether the trunk is outside or inside, you consider it to be outside. As long as wherever you physically are. You draw an imaginary wall from the border up, whichever side you're on, that's where you're on. That's not how Rav Yehuda looks at it. He looks at it, we follow the branches. On that, the Gemara has a problem. The Gemara says, Emru the Shamit the Rav Yehuda, going to the third line, Gabe Maaser lechumra. When did we hear Rav Yehuda saying his halacha that you always follow the branches? That's regarding Maaser Sheni, and that is lechumra. That's being more stringent. In other words, what the Gemara wants to say is that Rav Yehuda's rule that we just said, that by the cave or by the tree, you always go by the opening or the branches, right? That's because it creates a stringency, it creates a chumrah. And with regards to Maaser Sheni only. Why? Because Rav Yehuda was not sure. When it comes to a tree, do you follow the trunk of the tree, or do you follow the branches of the tree, or do you go where you physically are? So he said, you know what? Let's always be more machmir. So, when it comes to Maaser Sheni, following the branches, it has a chumrah whether you're inside or you're outside. It does create that stringency. But as the Gemara will point out, when it comes to Arei Miklat, that's a different story. So let's see. The Gemara says, third line, Bachutz, Ikaro Bachutz, Venofo Bifnim. If the trunk is on the outside, we're talking about Maaser Sheni now. If the trunk of the tree is outside of Yerushalayim, Venofo Bifnim, and the branches are inside, now what's the stringency in that case? In this case, if we follow the branches, and the branches are inside, because the branches are inside and the trunk is outside, and you follow the branches as if the entire tree is on the inside, so the same way that if you on the trunk of the tree, sorry, benofo, the same way on the branches, which is considered to be inside, you cannot redeem Maaser Sheni, because the halacha Maaser Sheni is that if you want to redeem it, you have to redeem it outside of Yerushalayim, not inside. So if you're standing on the actual branches, and the tree trunk is outside, branches are inside, it's as if you are inside, and you cannot go ahead and redeem it. So the chumrah, the stringency is now that even if you're on the trunk of the tree, which is physically outside, we view it as if it's inside. Therefore, the stringency is that you cannot redeem it. That brings about a stringency. Now, what's the stringency if it's the other way around? Let's say the trunk of the tree is on the inside, physically inside the Yerushalayim. Venofo, the branches are sticking out. So it's as if, we consider it to be as if it's outside of Yerushalayim. And what's the chumrah there? Now, Maaser Sheni can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. So the same way that if you're on the branches, which is outside, you can't eat it, below pedia, without redeeming it. So if you're standing on the trunk also, even though it's inside, you can't eat it without redeeming it. Ella. So that's the stringency if you look at both sides, whether the tree is considered to be inside or outside following its branches. Ella gabe Arei Miklat, the Gemara says, but when it comes to the case of Arei Miklat, the stringency, if you follow the branches, comes out in this case. Now, the stringency would be that if the Goel Hadam cannot kill the killer, the Rotzeach. Bishlema Ikaro Bachutz Venofo Bifnim. Gemara says, I understand if the trunk of the tree is on the outside, and the branches are on the inside, so that means you have the trunk outside of Arei Miklat, the branches are inside Arei Miklat. So if you follow the branches, it's as if the entire tree is inside Arei Miklat, and therefore, just like if he's on the branches, which is physically inside, you cannot kill him. If he's standing on the trunk of the tree, even though it's physically outside, the stringency that comes from this rule would be that even on the trunk, you are not allowed to go ahead and kill. The Goel Adam cannot kill the killer because it's as if he's inside. That's the stringency. Ela Ikaro, but if you look at it the other way around, Ikaro Bifnim. Let's say the trunk of the tree is actually physically inside the Arei Miklat. Venofo Bachutz. And its branches are outside of Arei Miklat. So if you follow the branches, since the branches are now outside, So you would say the same way that if he's on the branches, you're allowed to go ahead and kill him because he's physically outside, and the branches are outside, so you can kill him. So if he's actually standing physically on the trunk of the tree, which is physically located inside, but if you want to say you always follow the branches, it's as if he's outside, so that means technically, even though he's inside, you're allowed to kill him, right? That's if you follow the branches all the time. But he's actually physically inside. How can you go ahead and tell me that Rav Yehuda, who says by Maser Sheni that you follow the branches all the time, that's only maybe because it brings about a stringency, as we just proved. But when it comes to Arei Miklat, if you follow the branches, in this particular case where the branches are facing are outside, that would bring about a leniency. The leniency is, even though he's physically inside, you can kill him. How could that be? So Amar Rava. Two answers to this question. Rava says answer number one. Be'ikaro kula alma lo pligi de lo matzi koti. So Rava says, really the answer is, like we said earlier, there is a machloket Rav Yehuda and Chachamim. And to the question which you asked, Rav Yehuda, if you follow the branches, it brings about a leniency, like we just explained. He says, I'll explain to you. He says, Be'ikaro, if the guy is standing on the trunk of the tree, the trunk is inside, the branches are outside. That's the case that we had a problem with. Trunk inside, branches outside. So if the guy is actually standing on the trunk of the tree, which is physically inside, kula alma lo pligi lo matzi koti. Everyone agrees that you're not allowed to kill him because he's physically inside. Unlike what we said, we thought that Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Kai ben nofo, what if the guy is on the branches? Now the branches are outside, and if you follow the branches, and if you follow the physical location of the guy, he's always outside, right? And the Goel Adam, the Redeemer, can go ahead and kill this Rotzeach, this killer, either with arrows or with a stone. That means the only way to get to him is remotely, instead of climbing the tree. Then everyone agrees in that case you're allowed to kill him. Because if you follow the branches, he's outside. If you follow his physical location, he's also outside. Either way you look at it, on the branches, outside, he's outside. So therefore you can kill him. Ki pligi, the question is, the machloket between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim is, can the Goel Adam, the only way to access him, not remotely, and to get to him is climbing from the trunk of the tree the same way he himself did and went up to the branches, and go up the tree and kill him. But climbing from the trunk of the tree is inside the Arei Miklat. Is he allowed to use the trunk of the tree as a step ladder to get up to the branches where the killer is and kill him there? That's the machloki between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim. Mar Savar Have Ikaro Darga Lenofo. Rav Yehuda's opinion is that yes, you're allowed to use the step ladder, the trunk of the tree, even though it's inside as a step ladder to go upstairs. Why? Because eventually, right, the entire purpose of the tree, his idea is you always follow the branches, which means the branches are the main idea. The purpose of the trunk of the tree, the primary part of the tree, is the branches. So therefore, if you're taking the trunk of the tree to get to the branches, that's the main part of the tree. So therefore, you're allowed to go ahead and use it. That's Rav Yehuda's opinion. Umar Savar lo have ikaro darga lenofo. And the Chachamim hold that no, you cannot utilize the Arei Miklat itself, even though it's remotely, even though you're not killing the guy there. You cannot go ahead and use the Arei Miklat to get to the killer and go up the tree, the trunk, to get to the ladder. So therefore, according to this opinion, it's always a chumrah. Even Rav Yehuda would never say if the guy is physically inside, you're allowed to kill him. It's only if he's on the branches outside, can you use the tree to get up to him to kill him? That's where he says yes. That's answer number one. Rav Ashi Amar. Rav Ashi says, "My achar hanof, af achar hanof." Rav Ashi adds one extra word to the Mishnah which changes everything. He says, when we say that when it comes to Arei Miklat, you follow the branches, it means you could even follow the branches. As saying as follows. He also says same idea as Rava before, that Rav Yehuda is always using it as stringency. Usually we follow the branches. That's as long as, if you follow the branches, it gives you a stringency, a chumrah. That means if the branches are inside, even though the tree trunk is outside, and the guy's standing on the trunk, we follow the branches because we want to give the stringency that you can't kill him. It's as if the tree is inside. But he didn't say you always follow the tree, the branches. He says, af, you can even follow, which means there are times that you don't follow the branches, such as if the tree trunk is inside and the branches are outside. In that case, we don't say if he's standing on the tree trunk, you can kill him because it's as if he's outside. No, in that case, we follow the trunk itself. Therefore, you're not allowed to kill him. That's how Rav Ashi looks at the whole thing.
Rav Yossi Galili says it's a mitzvah to kill it, not even a reshus. So to him, the stringency would be
only if you're allowed to, not if he's in Ara Miklat. So that's what we're looking at to see if he's in Ara Miklat or not, right? So even Rav Yossi Galili would say if he's in Ara Miklat, there is no mitzvah to kill him.
Right.
That's what we're looking at, to see if he's actually considered to be inside or outside.
How can Rabbi Yehuda say that it's okay to go to Arya Miklat?
Because he follows, because the branches, because the place that you actually are killing him is not in Ara Miklat.
Yeah, but you first have to go to Arya Miklat. And you're not
As a step ladder, it's a secondary to go to the primary. If the primary part of the tree is the branches, so if it's as if the whole tree is created for the purpose of the branches. So using that as a step ladder to get to the main part, because the main part of the tree is the branches, that's where I'm going. So therefore, that's okay. That's what he looks at.
Is it usher for him to just go into the city even if he's not going to kill anyone?
To just walk around,
Yeah. Not usher.
no intention of not killing.
Yeah, but you have branches both inside and outside. What if the majority of the branches are inside and then some
So
are
probably
outside?
following the majority, right? Always that's the rule. Mishnah. Harag be'ota ha'ir, go le mishchuna l'shchuna. Let's say this Rotzeach, this murderer, right? The killer who killed Beshogig by mistake outside. He went inside Ara Miklat. Now it happens again. He's living there. Again, he climbs up a ladder, falls on top of somebody, and kills again in Ara Miklat. What is he allowed to do? So the Mishnah tells us, Harag be'ota ha'ir, if he kills again Beshogig unintentionally in that city, go le mishchuna l'shchuna. He has to go from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Rashi points out that he's not allowed to leave Ara Miklat and go to another Ara Miklat. We had 48 cities in total, right? 42 cities of the Lviv and the 6 Ara Miklat that he can go to, but once he's in one, he's not allowed to leave one to go to another one. So therefore, the only option for him is to actually go from one shchuna, one neighborhood, to another neighborhood. He goes from Pico Robertson into Beverlywood. That type of idea, right? Not one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Continues the Mishnah. Ben Levi, let's say you have a Levi who lives in the cities of the Levim, and he kills by Beshogeg. Go le me'ir la'ir. He goes from one city to another city. In this case, since the Levi living in his own city, he wasn't seeking refuge in his own city, so he's allowed to leave. That was just his dwelling place that was there before. So he's allowed to leave from that city and he should go to another city. But a Israel who killed and he actually went to Ara Miklat, so he's not allowed to leave that city, but if he kills again by mistake, Beshogeg, then he has to leave from one shechuna to another shechuna, one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Tan Rabbana, the Gemara says, V'samti lecha makom. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, and I will put a place there, Asher Yanus Shama, that the Rotzeach, the killer, can run there. So the Gemara darshins it as follows. The Braita says, V'samti lecha, when Hashem tells Moshe, V'samti lecha, I will put for you, means bechayecha, during your lifetime. Rashi says this is where Hashem promises Moshe Rabbeinu that he'll be zochet to this mitzvah during his lifetime, which means, as we see later on, that Moshe Rabbeinu, he actually does separate 3 of the cities for Ara Miklat in Yarden before he passes on. So Samti lecha, I'll put for you, that means you get the mitzvah bechayecha. Makom, mimekomecha. Since the Bach explains, since the word V'samti lecha makom, the word lecha is in between Samti and makom. So the Gemara therefore darshins it in both ways. Samti lecha, we already said, I will put for you, which means you'll be zoche to this mitzvah. Lecha makom, place for you, the Gemara says it means a place for you, mimekomecha, from your places. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Levi. Therefore, lecha mimekomecha, the place that I'm setting aside as a city of refuge should be from your places. That's referring to the places of the Levim. That's how the 42 cities of the Levim are also included. Asher Yanus Shama, that the Israel can run there. That's the rest of the pasuk. Melamed shayu Yisrael megalin bamidbar. This teaches you that the Jews did go, if they killed by mistake, by beshogeg, in the midbar, they also went to Galut. That's the idea that in your lifetime, you'll have the opportunity that they will run to the Machne Leviyah, as the Gemara says, Lehechan Megalin. Where did they run to? There was no cities. Cities were only once they entered Yerushalayim. Megalin LeMachne Leviyah. They used to go to Galut in the Machane Leviyah, the encampment of Levi. Mikan Amru. From here we see, Ben Levi Shaharag Gole Miplach Leplach. If a Levi kills Beshogeg, if he's in one of the cities, Gole, he should go to Galut, Miplach Leplach, from city to another city. That he should go ahead and pick up and move to go to another city. Ve'im Gala Leplacho, Palacho Kolto. And if he actually stays in his own city, then his own city would serve to protect him, which means that technically he should go to another city. But if the Levi kills and it's his own city, that still works to protect him. Now, the problem with that is the Mishnah told us that a Levi who kills, he has to go me'ir le'ir. He has to go to another city. Here we're saying that you're allowed to stay in the same city. So Tosfot asked that question. Tosfot says, Kashat last Tosfot on the page, Amrinan kevar gole miplach leplach. First of all, you already told me that he has to go from one city to another city. Ve'o, Tosfot said, Ha ka'amar ben Levi gole me'ir le'ir. You just said in the Mishnah that he has to go from one city to the next city. So how are you turning around and telling me that if he stays in the same city, it still works? So Ve'yesh lomar, Tosfot said that it's more of a good advice. That means technically staying in his own city would serve him protection. If he goes to another city, then he's allowed to walk around and go throughout the entire city, the next city, the other city that he's going to. However, but if he goes to Galut, if he stays in his own city, then the city would work for him. But Shelo Yetze, he cannot go from one shechuna to another shechuna, or he cannot. That means even in his own city, if he kills, he can't just stay in his own house. If he kills in that city, right, by mistake, he has to move to a different neighborhood. He could stay within the same city, right? It's better advice that he goes to a different city, because now he's allowed to go around the entire city. Nothing is off limits for him. But if he stays in that city, since he has to change neighborhood, he's not allowed to go back to the original neighborhood. And if he does, and the Gol Adam finds him, he's allowed to kill him there, even in Arei Miklat, as long as he's going back to the original neighborhood that he killed in. The same is true with the Yisrael that he kills in. If he already killed and he moved to Arei Miklat and he kills there again, Beshogeg, which we said he has to move from neighborhood to neighborhood, he's not allowed to revisit the first neighborhood, right? Why? And if he does, and the Gol Adam does see him, he's allowed to kill him there. Amar Rav Acha Bereder Rav Ika Mikra. What's the source? How do we know? Rashi says, how do we know that moving from one neighborhood to another neighborhood is sufficient? So Amar Meikra, what's the pasuk? Ki be'ir miklato yeshiv. The Torah says that in his city of Miklat, yeshiv, he should sit until the Kohen HaGadol dies. That's when he gets to come out. Now, there's an extra word in that pasuk, as Rashi points out. You should have said kisham yeshiv. The entire psukim are talking about Arei Miklat the whole time. So why do you have to say ki be'arei miklat yeshev? He should dwell in Arei Miklat until Kohen Gadol dies. You're talking about Arei Miklat. Just say there he should live until Kohen Gadol dies. From the fact that it says the second time Arei Miklat, to tell you ir shekaltato kevar, that the city that was already Mekalet, that already served as a protection for him, can serve for him as a protection again. Must be talking about which case? If he kills again in that same city can serve him protection as long as the concept is that he has to move. The whole idea of moving from one place to another place is to bring about anova, that a person is humbling himself. That's the idea. So therefore, to stay in one place, that's not good enough. He's got to move. All right.